not on yet. Apparently, I mean, there's a delay anyway. Looks like it's on. Not seeing it yet.
Oh, yes.
We are on.
Officially first time.
That's true.
I used to stand in the back and just
You're
go
like a dog.
You know, we should probably tell the family, Ezra and Tate, go down to the courtyard and tell them we're starting services like right now.
Literally, I broke that chair. So you have
Shabbat Shalom to the friends waiting out on YouTube. There's a bar mitzvah this weekend, and the family is eating a happy dinner, and we're going to tell them to come on up. So there's going to be a slight delay while we wait for them.
Here. Actually, it'll be nothing else. Ask and give more.
Oh, right. That's actually
Oh, here they come. And actually leave that door open, so you push it all the way open. Victoria, will you push that door all the way open? Just keep the door open? Yeah, it locks if you keep pushing it. Okay. And we want it open, actually. Okay. I think you got it. No, that one doesn't open. Okay. Sorry, everybody. No worries.
Is this your biggest, post-pandemic crowd?
Friday night, maybe, but we, 150 on last Saturday, so. So I guess we will go ahead and get started. Shabbat Shalom to everybody, especially to the extended family of Bar Mitzvah Ezra Graham. So Mazel Tov to him and his entire crew. And we're going to begin on page 5, Shir Ladonai Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Baruch Hu Shemo Basru Miyom Leyom Yeshuato Safru V'Gaim Kevodo Bechol Ha'amim Niflotav Ki Gadol Adonai Ulal Me'od Norahu Al Kol Elohim Ayayna Ki Kol Elohim Ha'amim Elilim Ha'adonai Shemayim Azab Hod Be'adar Ve'ifana Hod Be'tiferet Be'mikdasho Hamul Adonai Mishpechot Amin Hamul Adonai Kavod Va'oz Hamul Adonai Ke'od Shemo Se'u Mincha Uvo Lechatzrotav Ladonai al kodesh kol ha'ana kol haaretz im v'gayim Adonai malach haftikon devel v'altimot yadin amik v'mesharim yisru shamayim v'tagir haaretz yiram hayam u'meloho ya'alo zadai Bechol asher bo ayayna to ay nay 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 yay nay nay yay yay nay 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 yay nay 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 yay nay 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 yay nay nay nay. All right, we're going to turn now to page 8, the bottom. Or Zarua, light is sown for the righteous. I love it. We got people clearly coming for the bar mitzvah straight from the airport just to get here for the Friday night services. So I love it. I love it. Or Zarua, Latzadik, O Yisrael Simcha. Or Zarua, Latzadik, O Yisrael Simcha. Or Zarua, Latzadik, O Yisrael Simcha. O Yisrael Simcha. Or Zarua, Latzadik, O Yisrael Simcha. O Yisrael Simcha. So for Susan and Adam, that was like one of the most popular songs in between the time that you attended Swig and he attended Newman, right? You know, but
That's why I don't know.
so neither of you know it, but it was huge at your camp. You just not quite the you both just missed it. All right, we are going to turn now to page 13, Mizmor LeDavid. Mizmor LeDavid, Ahol Adonai Beni, Ahol Adonai, Kavod Baoz, Ay Ay Ay, Ahol Adonai, Kevod Shemo Yishkach, Ahol Adonai Be'adon Kodesh, Adonai, Al Hamayim, Kevach Kavod Yerim, Adonai, Al Manim Rabbi, Kol Adonai, Bakoa, Ay Ay Ay, Adonai, Be'adar, Adonai, Shomer Harazim, Vashaber Adonai, E'azeh Abaddon, Vayarkirem Kemo Egem, E'banon, Be'esirion, Kemo, Kemo Ben Re'im, Ay Ay Ay, Adonai, Ozer Adon Ish, Kol Adonai, Yachir Midbar, Yachir Adonai, Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai, Echol El Hayalon, Vayecheson, Ye'arot, U'echalon, Kulo Over Kavod, Ay Ay Ay, Adonai, Lama Abuya Java Yisem, Adonai, Melech Le'olam, Adonai Yom, Le'amo Yiten Adonai, Yevarech et Ama Vashalom. Hey, ay, ay, nay, 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 ay, nay, 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 ay, nay, 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 ay, nay, 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 ay, nay, 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 ay, nay, 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 all right. Lecha Dodi, page 15. Lecha Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Panei Panei Shabbat Kamela. Lecha Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Panei Panei Shabbat Kamela. Lecha Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Panei Panei Shabbat Kamela. Panei Shabbat Nekavela Shamor V'Zachor V'Dibor Echad Hishmi'anu El HaMiyuchad Adonai Echad Shemo Echad Shemo Tiferet V'Li Ila La 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 לך, כי מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, צומח מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לה 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 לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Bottom of 17. ימים שמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תריצי, על ידיש את פרצי, ונשמחה ונגילה לה 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 דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise and we face the entrance, which I know for some of you is there, but mostly is there, welcoming the Shabbat bride. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam v'simcha u'v'tzola, toch emne am segula, boi kala, boi kala. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. And we say to any mourners in our midst, Makom lechem b'tok sharvei Zion v'Yerushalayim, may God comfort you with all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We may be seated. Psalm for Shabbat on page 19. Mizmor shir leyom HaShabbat, tov lehodot le'Adonai, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon, lehagid b'boker chasdecha, ve'emunatcha b'leyon. Shabbat, tov lehodot le'Adonai, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon. We continue silently. Tzadik tamar yifrach, K'erez balvanon yizkeh, shetulim beveit Adonai bechatrot, Eloheinu yafrihu, odinu vun b'seva, deshenim bera'ananim, Yehu lehagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri velo avlatabo. Page 21. Adonai malach yot lavesh lavesh Adonai ositazar aftikon tevel ba'altimot nachon kisacha me'az me'am ata nasu nerot Adonai nasu nerot kolam Yisunerot ochyam Ikolot mayim Mayim rabim adirim Nishbeheyam Adir b'marom Adonai Erotecha Adonai leorech yamim. We rise for the formal call to prayer, the Baruch Hu. La 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 Adonai HaMevorach Baruch and we may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bivaro ma'arim ha'aravim. Rayom v'layla v'leilor mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or v'yom uvein layla v'avdil ben yom uvein layla Adonai tzvaot shemo el chai v'kayam tamid yimloch alinu le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'arim ha'aravim. So I know they don't think they're coming up till tomorrow, but I am going to have them come up a night early. So let's actually have our bar mitzvah come on up. So Ezra, as well as Zoe and all the cousins, Miriam and Caleb, Lila and Tyler. Come on. They're going to lead the Shema and Ve'ahavta. This is practice away from, I mean, it's the real thing. It's still a Shema and Ve'ahavta. But, you know, it's kind of practice for tomorrow. And
You know? You guys gonna be here in the front seat.
And so tomorrow, yeah, you'll all need kippot. I got one for you there. We got one more maybe coming.
Back.
Here you go. And we'll have a stand for you tomorrow, probably. But all right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Elohecha b'chol lavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu advarim ha'eleh asher Elohim tzedekah Hayom Olivavecha, Vishinon Tam Libanecha,
Vidivartam, Vishitecha, Vitecha, Uvetecha, Vader, Ushokrecha, Ukumecha, Ukshartam Virotayadecha, Vihayumetetefa, Urenenecha, Uktaktam, Almisuzo, Vitecha, Uvisharecha.
We continue silently. You know, it's a new thing. I don't know where they're going to stop or not. Like, some of the kids know the very end, the Monty Screw, and then last week the kid kept going, did the whole thing out loud, which no one ever heard. You know, it was great. So wherever they stop is great. So we're on 27 through 29. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. We're on page 32. Tov Ratzon Kilu Alehem, Moshe ben Israel, Chanashira B'Simcha Rabba, V'amru Chulam. Trying to get the right tune here. Yai la la la, yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilot, osei pelech. Nora tehilot, osei pelech. Adonai. מלכותך ראו בניך חוקי הים לפני משה זה אלי אנו ואמרו זה אלי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד לי 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 Kifnai Yaakov, Gleb Chazak, Mimenu, Baruch Atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. 33. We lie down, we go to sleep, and we hope to wake up to a renewed life and soul. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu L'Shalom, V'amidenu Malkeinu. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu L'Shalom, Amidenu Malkeinu L'Chaim. Ushmor Tzeitzenu, U'oheinu side of the room first. Hashivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom. Hashivenu Akeinu Lechaim. Hashivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom. Ve'amidenu Malkeinu Lechaim. Some harmonies there. Rosaleni Shikat Shlomecha, Baruch Atah Adonai, Haporei Sukat Shalom Aleinu, Val Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Yerushalayim. Please rise for the Shamru, the covenant of Shabbat. Ve'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorot ha'merim olam. B'ni u'b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Ve'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorot ha'merim olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz ve'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorot ha'merim olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat v'nafash, Shabbat v'nafash, Shabbat v'nafash. Shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorot ha'merim olam. We remain standing for the Chatzi Kaddish, and we call upon our bar mitzvah Ezra Graham to lead us in the Chatzi Kaddish. Practice for tomorrow. Although again, it counts.
Yikidal v'yikidash shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Ve'amad yivrach yotzei v'yamlik malchutei v'chayei konu yomecha Devayei kol beit Yisrael Bagala Bagala Ubizman Karim V'yimeru Amen Yesh Shmei Rabba Nevorah Le'olam Le'omaya Yibarach Yibarach Yishtabach Yibar V'Ramon Yitnaseh V'Tadar V'Talei V'Talav Shmei D'Kudusha Le'elam Yiko Berchat.
I know, we ended up on Kish Shalom tune. It's okay. Just keep going. Le'elam Yiko Berchata Tush Bechata
Ta'miram Be'olam V'Yimeru
Amen. Yasher Koach.
Yeah.
And we now pause for the silent Amidah, pages 37 through 48. Go ahead and read the words of the book. It's also a good time for your own private meditation and prayer. עושה שלום במרומיו. הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. All right, yeah. Jacqueline, you want to lead a little bit? Okay. I don't know if she's ever led that before.
Oh, really?
Doesn't mean she couldn't if she wants to, but
She can learn it from us.
she likes to read Torah. So we're going to be on page 49.
ויהולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, אלוהי אברהם ואלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל, אלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, קונה שמיים וארץ. מגן אבות בדברו, מחיי מתים במאמרו, האל הקדוש שאין כמוהו, המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו. כיוון רצה להניח להם, כיוון רצה להניח להם, לפניו נעבוד ביראת ובפחד, ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד מעין הברכות. אל ההודעות אדון השלום, מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי, ומניח בקדושה ליום קדושי עונג, זכר למעשה בראשית. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו רצה במנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך, סבנו מטובך, ושמחנו בישועתך, וטהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת, והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה וברצון, שבת קודשך באנובה ישראל, מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Yasher Koach. Ezra Graham, come on back up for Kaddish Shalem, page 53.
Yikedav Yikedash Shanei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'amad Yivrak Yirutei ve'amlich Malchutei. V'chayei chonu v'yomei chonu v'chayei v'chur be'Yisrael. Bagalo Vizman Kari Veimeru.
Amen. Yesh Merah Torah. Le'olam Olam Le'olam Yibarach.
Yibarach Vishtavach Yibarvi Umam Vitnase. Vitadar Vitale Vitalau Shemeda Kudisha.
Rehu.
Le'elam Mikol Berchata Veshirata. Tushbechata V'nechemata Dami Ran Ve'alma. Ve'alma V'imeru.
Amen.
Tikbal Sotachon Uva Utachon Depo Yisrael. Kodam Aruchon Divishmaya V'imeru.
Amen.
Heishlam Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chayim Aleinu Ve'al Yisrael V'imeru.
Amen.
Osei Shalom B'romav. Kuya Asei Shalom. Aleinu Ve'al Yisrael V'imeru.
Amen. Yahshua.
Thank you, Ezra. Looking forward to much more for tomorrow. Now, if you're a guest, you don't know that what I've been doing on Friday nights is, instead of doing a sermon, I've been going president by president and their relationship to the Jewish community, and we are up to Gerald R. Ford tonight. So, Gerald R.
Very excited about Joe.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess but people don't tend to get very excited about Gerald Ford. But that might be a good thing, right? You know, if you're sometimes if someone just does their job well, which I know that's debatable, and also wasn't very long, right? But anyway, here's a little bit about it. He was born in Omaha, but he really was a Michigan guy, as much as that pains me to say that. And if you're watching Micah, which I'm sure you're not, my senior son at Ohio State, sorry about that. In fact, he was a football player at the University of Michigan. He was Episcopal, he was adopted, he was a Republican, and his political opponents constantly would tease him actually about his football playing. He was a dumb jock. But actually, he was in the top 25% of his class at Yale Law School. He was a very intelligent man. He presided at a pretty horrible time to be president, having to follow the resignation of Richard Nixon, but also during stagflation, and it was just a really, really difficult time economically and morally to be president. And I'm going to comment on his Jewish stuff mostly, but he really did provide a stabilizing force of morality when he became president. As a congressman, he was a champion of Soviet Jewry. Now, and I'm talking about, with a lot of these presidents, their relationship to the Jewish community is often reflected in their relationship to Israel, particularly in this time period, but even beforehand. And what you have to understand is Republicans were not at all pro-Israel. I mean, some of them were, but most of them were not in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. That changed later, but Gerald Ford was. He co-sponsored legislation. He challenged Brezhnev during a visit here. As president, he also took an official visit to Auschwitz, the first president to do so. He was always one of the leading Republican supporters of Israel when he was in Congress, and foreign aid, again, not a common Republican stance. They were isolationists for the most part at that time. In Congress in 1969, he said the following: "I firmly believe that the fate of Israel is linked to the national security interests of the United States. I therefore cannot conceive of a situation in which the U.S. administration will sell Israel down the Nile." And then, as president, he said, "America must and will pursue friendship with all nations. But this will never be done at the expense of America's commitment to Israel. A strong Israel is essential to a stable peace in the Middle East. Commitment to Israel is based upon basic morality as well as enlightened self-interest." Which are words that I still very much agree with and believe. One of his biggest supporters was a man named Max Fisher, who was a wealthy Detroit industrialist and a Nixon supporter. And he put together a meeting at the White House as soon as Ford became president, where Ford told him of his plans. And he actually visited the White House something like 40 times under the Ford presidency. He was really a regular there. And all this, and even though he was a wealthy Detroit industrialist, he was an Ohio State guy. And in fact, Max Fisher is the namesake of the Fisher School of Business where my son Micah attends. So, again, go Buckeyes. Anyway, there was some tension between the Jewish community and Ford because of his support of Egypt and his pressure on Israel to give back the Sinai, and it was tied to more aid to Israel. But because of that stand, that's actually set up what eventually became the Camp David Accords under Carter, which really kind of started under Ford and maybe even Nixon. The Jewish community was very happy with his appointment of Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the New York senator, and a very strong Israel supporter, as the ambassador to the United Nations. And I can't imagine it happened today, but Daniel Patrick Moynihan was a Democrat appointed to that position by a Republican president. It was different back then. He, of course, he had lots of Jews serving under him. He kept on Henry Kissinger as Secretary of State, Arthur Burns as the chair of the Federal Reserve, Edward Levi as the first he appointed Edward Levi as the first U.S. Attorney General, and Alan Greenspan was the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, eventually becoming the president of the Fed. He lost when he ran on his own and didn't succeed. He lost to Jimmy Carter. It was a very close race. Many people attribute that to his pardon of Nixon, and here I'm veering from the Jewish perspective and giving just a little bit of my own political perspective. It's not a controversial one at all, which is that pardon, it got people very angry at him, but it also enabled the country to heal quicker and get over it. Nixon became a non-issue after that. He had a very nice post-presidential life. He was quite active in all kinds of things. He was also, maybe surprisingly, maybe not very pro-LGBTQ, although at the time they called it gay and lesbian, or pro-homosexual even, they would have called it at the time. Breaking with the conservative Republicans in 2001, he said gay and lesbian couples ought to be treated equally, period. And he was also a supporter of the Equal Rights Amendment. So he was really much more of a contrast than you would imagine. I can't imagine a Republican like that getting elected today. But really, there's lots of nice things to be said about Gerald R. Ford, both in general and in relationship to the Jewish community. So that's him. Next week, Jimmy Carter. And as I mentioned, we are going to get, it's going to get more and more controversial only because you know something about them, you have opinions on it. Again, when I talk about James Buchanan or Franklin Pierce, you just, who's going to disagree, right? So we're going to get there. All right, we're going to now rise for the Kiddush, and we're going to invite Ezra and Zoe, and and Victoria and Justin to come on up. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shavat kasher v'alav ratzon hinpilanu zikaron l'ma'aseh b'reishi yom tefillah l'mikra'ei kodesh zeher l'tziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shavat kodshecha v'yahava u'ratzon inchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha'shabbat. Amen. Great news, we never know. Right, so actually stay up there and go ahead and put your hands on your children's heads, and if you, anyone else, you're comfortable blessing, we say, Yisimcha Elohim k'Ephraim v'chi Menashe, Yisimcha Elohim k'Sar Rivka Rachel v'Leah, Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Adonai b'navelecha v'yichunecha, Yisa Adonai b'navelecha, Yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May God lift the divine face toward you and grant you peace. Amen.
Amen.
All right, we remain standing. You can go back toward your seats, though. And we turn to page 57 for the Aleinu. Thank you. Aleinu Shabbat Adon HaKol, Atei K'Shalom Seferishim, Shalom Hashem Yikrei Barazo, Velo Samayu K'Mishpachot HaAdama, Shelo Sam Chelkeinu Kahem, V'Kol Rameinu K'Chol Hamonam, Anachnu Kodim, Mishachavim Umodim, Lifnei Melech, Malchei Mamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Notei Shamayim, Umoshem Yekaro B'Shamayim Mima'al, U'Shchina Tuzo, Begam Emir Romim, Hu Eloheinu Einod, Emet Malkeinu Efes Zulato, Kakatu B'Torato, V'yatata Hayom V'Hashivotam, El Levavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, B'Shamayim Ima'al, V'Ha'aretz Mitachat Eino. Kakatu b'Torah Techanaim Loch Le'olam Va'ed V'ne'emar V'chaya Adonai L'melech Al Kol Haaretz V'yom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad. We may be seated as we lovingly recall the memory of our departed relatives and friends as your sets we observe during the coming week, thinking especially today of Molly Bluer, Norman Bookin, Charles Charney, Harry Cohen, Paula Dickman, Elizabeth Dienstag, Caroline Falkenberg, Ruth Feldhammer, Jules Gewurz, Marcus Jacob Klein, Nitza Kleinlehrer, Barbara Corin, Herman Bernard Kraft, Fega Tova Cuff, Morris Lazar, Edna Levine, Jack Litwack, Clarence Marcus, Roger Martin, Rabbi Herbert Morris, one of my mentors and Raina Arnold's father, Clara Simring Oak, Monroe Mendel Pizer, Kenneth Rotman, Isaac and Paulette Sevi, and Isaac Sevi used to lead the Friday night services here as a layperson, Anne Gertrude Shapiro, Rosebud Silver, Yeshua Sinai, Lena Snow, Herman Spritzer, Mary Louise Tenry, Helen Wasserman, and we are in the Shloshim, the 30-day morning period for Cantor Richard Kaplan. In memories of all of them with us, we ask all those who are in mourning or observing Yortzeit, as well as anyone else who wishes to join me in the Mourner's Kaddish on page 61. Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah V'Yalmad Yivrach Hirutei V'Yamliv Malkutei V'Chayechon V'Yomechon V'Chayechon Beit Yisrael V'Galam Zman Kariv V'Imru Yehei Shmei Rabbah V'Orach V'Elam Omei Almaya Yitbarach V'Yishtabach V'Yitba'ar V'Yitramam V'Yitnaseh V'Yitadar V'Yitaleh V'Yitalal Shmei Kudsha Arichu La'elam Min Kol Berchata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechemata Damiran V'Yalma V'Yimru Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chaim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Yimru Osei Shalom B'Mrama Uya Osei Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Yimru Amen. Zikronam Livracha. May the memory of the people you've come to say Kaddish will be a blessing to you always.
Amen.
Right, a few announcements. tomorrow, services, well, actually, tonight, there's dessert afterward in the courtyard. If you haven't eaten dinner yet, life is short. Start with dessert. Tomorrow, services begin at 9:30. As Ezra Graham becomes bar mitzvah, he'll be leading Torah service Musaf, giving the drash, chanting the Torah, chanting the Haftorah, and we look forward to all of it. There's also a Kiddush lunch afterward, a full Kiddush lunch. Pick up your food in the social hall, eat it outside. Minyan, Monday and Thursday, 8 a.m. with light breakfast afterward. It really is also happening right now. All very exciting. And our adult education classes continue. There's also a notice that went out, Warriors Jewish Heritage Night. You have to sign up pretty quickly. I mean, their nosebleed seats, that's $55 a ticket for Chase Center. That's really, really good. So if you want to...
What a deal.
It is. If you've never been to a Warriors game, it would be a great opportunity. Weekly text study, 9 a.m. at Rocky's Market at Brooklyn Basin, not the one off of Park or off Lamert, on Lamert, but the one in Brooklyn Basin. If you don't know where that is, it's basically the port, the Embarcadero in Oakland. And it's a pretty nifty place with a courtyard as big as ours, and we're the only ones there. So lots of distance and outdoor space. All right, I think that is about it. Let's see, continued. He actually is not ill, but our normal audio video person, Josh Mellon, is in Germany doing some of his extra testing that he does. He speaks all over the world about cancers and is a survivor himself and does all kinds of experimental treatments and testing, and so he's there. So nevertheless, it is still, I checked, it's still going out to YouTube. So thank you, and it will tomorrow too for your relatives from far away. Anybody make it in from far away? Or I mean, where? Just giving us an idea. Where are people from?
Seattle.
Seattle, great. Chicago. Phoenix.
Wyoming.
What'd you say, Wyoming?
Yeah.
Nice. And Los Angeles. Chicago. Wonderful. Fantastic. Well, welcome. Great to have you here. And I know the peninsula as well, of course, but that's not so far. Okay, so we're going to conclude with the song Lechi Lach, because that is the Torah portion tomorrow. It's Lech Lecha, where God says to Abraham, and probably to Sarah too, to go to this land, which I'm going to show you. Well, that's not the part we're reading tomorrow, but that is the beginning of the portion. If you don't know it, just listen. If you do know it, feel free to sing along. Not in the book, though.
Lechi
Shabbat Shalom.